think that's always was the right thing, because if he's running, he can't slow up to set a pick. He's not always going to be able to get out there and just use his incredible speed. But at the draft combine, I think he set a record for fastest center full court speed. And so this kid, not only does he jump out of the gym, not only is he fearless, like I think a lot of people, especially when they're talking about black men, they fetishize us as, oh, we have to be street. We've got to have a cool nickname. We've got to, hang out with rappers. This kid is a humble kid. And I think a lot of Nets fans did this to Brook Lopez too, and where they couldn't see how good Brook Lopez could possibly be, because he was just a big doofy, mixed race kid, and he was racially ambiguous, so he didn't fit the mold. We need guys who will just come down the court and dunk and scream on people and elbow people and be tough guys like we see on television. Jarrett Allen is just a great kid from the suburbs whose dad was an NBA player and mom was a college basketball player, and they lived kind of like, my wife is from the same town as them, right outside of Austin, Texas, called Round Rock. And it's a little milquetoast, it's a little boring, but he's not scared to block LeBron James. He's not scared to jump with Giannis and block his shot twice in one game. What you're seeing in Jarrett Allen is no mistake. It's not a novelty. It's just, he's a baby. He's 22. Sam, are you even 22?
I'm way older than that.
But that goes to show. But that goes to show, like, when I was 22, I was a moron. Like,
the maturity on the NBA guys is like out of this. It's out of this world. It actually makes me dislike the mainstream NBA media way more, because I think the way they treat these guys is so gross.
Right, and Kyrie is another example of that as well, and we're gonna get to him now. It's just we fetishize these players to be a certain way, to act a certain way, to follow this model that makes it unable to see. That's why he fell so far in the draft, is because, what do you mean he's building computers? My best friend who did the show with me, did the Kyrie show with me, Drew Preem, he used this football scholarship to bag not only his bachelor's degrees, but 2 master's degrees. And because of that, a lot of times people would be looking at the way his approach to it, and his approach to football, that football is a means to an end and not the end. People want you to run through brick walls. They look at things a certain way, which is why the Kyries of the world, people who have other interests, people who have other focuses that doesn't fit these archetypes that we usually are kind of shown in the media, it throws us off in our analysis. Because the kid builds computers, he shouldn't have been a top 10 pick. He would be top 3 in that draft now if you redrafted it. And Nets fans don't appreciate him enough. I'm sick of seeing him in packages for James Harden. I wouldn't trade this kid. I'm telling you, I saw it. I can't find that article anymore because there's so much press on the Nets now. And there's so many stories about Jarrett being included in a Harden trade. But there was a point that the Warriors were saying, we'll trade you the second pick for Jarrett Allen. And honestly, if you looked at that game, if you're a win now team, if you're a team that's trying to get the best out of Curry, I'd much rather Jarrett Allen than James Wiseman. I'm sorry, my love for my youngest son, Jarrett Allen is showing, and we kind of veered off course. Let's talk about Kyrie Irving. Give me your impressions of Kyrie last night.
So beyond the fact that he was just like got to wherever he wanted when he wanted to, which that can't be overstated. Like it was unbelievable. But beyond that, the biggest thing, and I said this in our last podcast, and maybe even the one before that, the dude is like for the first time in a while looks like supremely happy like playing basketball. Like he's the first one up after every single timeout. He after one of the Levert moves, the camera cut to him and he was just like wowed and was kind of like re-imitating what Levert had just did. It's clear that him and Durant are like really on a mission, and I think there is something too. Look, like we all see this with our own jobs. Like there's a difference in like the passion you go about it when you're like happy with like your work, with like who you're working with, the location of where you're working, all that stuff happens, and there's nothing different with like being a professional player. Like it's clear that he thought the Boston fit was going to happen. He went through family stuff, and I think Boston just was not what he wanted. And obviously Cleveland was a long time coming that he needed a change of scenery. But like, I don't know, just his joy on the court, it felt more like he felt a little bit more to me like how people have been praising Steph for, with like the joy that he brings to the court, and that's to me what Kyrie brought with yesterday.
Absolutely, and I'm never gonna lie to Kyrie. The people that you're fans of, I believe this 100%. But the people that you're fans of need your criticism more than the people you don't like. The players I don't like, there's a lot of NBA players I don't like. Most people wouldn't know which NBA players I don't like because I don't talk about them. I talk about Kyrie because not only do I want Kyrie to win it all, and we share that, we both want the same thing for the Nets to win it all, but I want him to get out of this NBA part of his career unscathed without him being branded something that he isn't. This is a good kid, man. Does he have eccentricities? Yes. Is he a little different? Yes. And before I used to call him a dickhead, I'm going to reel that back in. He's not a dickhead. He's way more misunderstood than a dickhead. And to be honest, if you've ever hung out with NBA players, you would find out that they all are pretty much dickheads. Like it comes with, not being able to walk out their house and people shouting and worshiping you like you're God. That's the reason why, I was watching him debut some of his music, which is, and far be it from, I'm Wu-Tang, I'm Nas, I'm old school hip hop. I stay in my lane. I enjoy some new stuff, but I can't tell if he's good or not. I'm not the right person to say that. However, it didn't sound too good to me, and everyone was in his chat. Oh, Kyrie, you got bars. We love you. Fuck all that. As of today, Kyrie Irving is still, and this is not to take away from Kevin Durant, but having watched that game all the way through twice and without skips, because I was skipping through stuff, so I kind of been through the game 2.5 times. But having watched that game twice now, Kyrie was the best player on the court. He imposed his will, and I tweeted something last night that's real. He's a for real. He really believes he's a 7-footer. And I want him to do that less, but he was under the rim, grabbing rebounds and banging with guys and laying it all out there. He wanted to send a message to the league. And behind all of his philanthropy and his spirituality and his political stances, there's a cutthroat killer in there, a basketball cutthroat killer, and I saw it, and I saw him not wanting to give anybody mercy, and I saw him feeling like, I saw him expressing himself on the court. I mean, truly, the kid is an artist, and you can't not love that. Now, is Kevin Durant going to have games where he's just flat out the very best player in the world? I believe that's coming. But last night Kyrie was the best player on the court. He didn't even have the best game in my opinion, but he was the dominant factor on the court, and that was clear, and so that makes him still, until KD has his outburst, the greatest basketball player to suit up for a New York City team, and I just feel nothing but gratitude and just honestly just respect for Kyrie's game. Incredible stuff, man. Incredible stuff. KD, let's talk about him. That was a pretty amazing premiere for one of the greatest basketball players to ever play this game. What you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, he scored without, like, I mean, it's effortless with him, man. It's like he had a couple of plays where I'm like, oh, so this is what it's like to have a superstar on a team. Like the floater he had towards the baseline that he shot over two guys, the three he had just like taking it up the court where he was honestly pretty contested. I mean, he had like, I think 22 points in 25 minutes playing, and honestly, like, I thought he probably could have done more if he felt like he needed to do more, but he just didn't. I mean, and the biggest thing about him, by the way, was I think he had three steals and a block. I thought he was super active on defense. Like, I thought he looked way better on defense last night than he did in either of the preseason games, and his passing was also incredible. Like,
oh my god,
the lob to DeAndre, the backdoor to Joe Harris. I mean, it was a clinic.
Look, man, all of those things were amazing, but the greatest part of having Kevin Durant on this team and having Kevin Durant on the floor with these guys is his gravity. He, even in a lot of the stills, and I was checking out some Matt Brooks cut-ups, even in the stills you could see that him and Joe Harris would be coming down the court, and Steph Curry was hedging on Durant with his man. So you'd have, kind of Joe Harris not being guarded like he usually is. Usually when Joe Harris comes down the court, a defender will put a hand on him, and while watching another player will be following Joe Harris to his spot. Last night, players could not, you can't do that, because then you're leaving whoever's guarding KD one-on-one, and that's not going to work for anybody. So the gravity that he created, and at one point the onslaught was getting so bad, you could tell, like, Golden State was kind of looking at each other like, who are we going to guard? If we guard the guys who's scoring, they're just going to throw alley-oops to the center, whether it be Jared Allen or DeAndre Jordan. So the gravity, just the look of what the fuck are we gonna do is the thing that came out to me. And I'm a stats guy, but this is the thing that the eye could only tell you. It's how much pressure he puts on an opposing defense to try to solve him is what kills everybody else. And what that tells me is, if he could just stay semi-healthy, if there's age and attrition that slows him, that makes him lose a step, that makes him not jump that high, none of that doesn't even matter. It's because he's still a 7-footer who's efficient shooting from every single spot on the court. And that's just an incredible thing to behold. And because of that pressure, it is insane that you have Kyrie Irving and Spencer Dinwiddie and Joe Harris on the floor with him. That it's an embarrassment of riches. I don't want to make this